What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr War Games, and we are going to answer the question to buy or not to buy the brand new core set of Battles of Chaos. So Battles of Chaos premiere event is this weekend. Head down to your locals where you will be able to purchase packs of Battles of Chaos and of course get a chance to try and win one of these exclusive mats and of course an awesome looking field centre. So ultimately the question we are going to ask today is it worth buying Battles of Chaos? Now Battles of Chaos introduced us to support for, of course, Dark Magicians. It also introduces us support for Blue Eyes, Vampires, Sword Souls, Ice Jades, you name it, we've got it, alongside two new archetypes of Libromancers and Dinomorphia, what has now been known. So I'll take you through all of the secrets, we'll evaluate kind of what their values would be, and then kind of go through the overall cap of how much you should invest in this set or not invest at all. Before we get started, at this exact moment of time, we know approximately 4 Starlight Rares. So we have seen on the official Konami database that the Dark Magicians, which was a fusion spell from Legendary Duelist season, is actually in this set. So the argument can be made that that is going to be one of the Starlights, which will be the introductory Starlight or the Legacy Starlight for the set. We also know that Blue Eyes Jet Dragon is a Starlight, and we also know that the Dinoruffias or Dinomorphia, I think it's Tirajit, is the other Starlight as well. Off the back of that, we can speculate that Dark, which is the link to Charmer, will be a Starlight as well to kind of match with the rest. So there is still one unknown. The other card as well that we are not 100% set on is the fact that we do not know whether or not the Dark Magician will be in this. Now, we know in the OCG they got the manga art for Dark Magician. MST TV did show that off, but it had a different code. Whereas on the set list you can also see Dark Magician, so we don't know if it's going to be a Starlight Rare or if it is going to take the space of a Starlight Rare, but be an Ultra Rare promo card that will be filtered out throughout the set. So as of yet we do not know. Fingers crossed it's not going to be that hard to get for Dark Magician players, but we will soon see. Now let's dive into the secrets. Now we're going to just go straight over the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes. They are both of the, what I would say, legacy chase cards in the set. So Illusion of Chaos, in my opinion, is the best card for me to be chasing as a Dark Magician player. Also, if you are looking to splash the Magician's Souls engine into any deck, Illusion of Chaos basically means you end up with 6 copies of Magician's Souls, and then you no longer have to play that additional brick of a level 6 spellcaster because it can send Illusion of Chaos. So what does Illusion of Chaos do? Well, it is a secret rare. You reveal it in your hand to then add a card that specifically lists Dark Magician in its name from your deck to the hand, or a monster specifically. You will then add that particular card and then put a card from your hand back to the top of your deck. So whether that be the Illusion of Chaos that can then be sent off of the back of the Magician's Souls, or whether it be one of the bricks you've opened up that you no longer want. Put that back to the top of the deck, and straight away you've got a Magician's Souls, which is going to be a free summon that can then ultimately send spells and traps for additional draw power as well. Keeping in mind that for Dark Magicians it's going to mean a lot more because it does unlock plays of getting Dark Magician Girl to the board, Dark Magician to the board, as well as that draw factor, not to mention the consistency factors of Illusion of Chaos being able to be searched with Preparation of Rites and Diviner of the Herald should you want to go down that route. To me, it is probably at pre-release currently 50 odd euros, 50 odd dollars. I feel that it could drop down a little bit, but then start to make its way back up. I feel a lot of this set is going to be purchased because previously, specifically for me, I was getting a case of this set. Now knowing that the Dark Magicians actually only have 1 secret rare and then I believe 2 ultra rares with a possible Starlights, kind of means that you don't need to invest as heavily in this set. If you are a Dark Magician player, you can ultimately kind of go for 1 or 2 boxes and then buy the singles themselves because I feel that they will drop below a reasonable standard price. Moving on to the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. Now obviously Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, you only really need to be running one of it in a deck unless you are a purist that wants to be playing freeze of everything. In doing so, this does mean that it is pre-released at the moment at £37. I believe that this can easily come down to about a £20 card because it doesn't take the Dark Magician, like the Illusion of Chaos takes Dark Magician up a level, I don't feel that the Jet Dragon takes Blue Eyes up that massive step. Now they do get obviously other support as well. I believe they've got something like Lord of D, but it's an upgrade to him. And again, it's very specific on the type of Blue Eyes build that you are going to be playing, so it's not really on the same level as Magician's Souls. Moving on to the rest of the secrets, there are a couple of surprise ones in here, but there are, of course, a couple of ones that make a lot of sense. One of them being the main meta deck right now, which is Sword Soul, so they get a brand new level 10 Synchro. The thing that this level 10 will do, considering that you're going to be making it more times than not with Long U, is ultimately going to open up the window for the ability to burn your opponent for 3600 damage. Not all in one go, but the way it works is if your opponent activates a monster effect, burn them for 1200. If they activate a spell or trap, burn them for 1200. And then if you've made it with Long U, you're going to burn them for 1200 as well. This will take the place of being able to summon out a Baroness, and it will also take the place of bringing out the Sovereign. But keep in mind as well, you're not going to replace them in the extra deck, you're just going to have 3 options for your level 10 plays. So you're probably going to always start with Baron just because it protects you from that Omni Negate. And then just to help you ease through games a lot quicker, you would then start to rely on Baroness's effect during the standby phase to get rid of it, bring a monster back, and then ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to go into this boss monster. Keep in mind, this boss monster straight away will burn for 1200, not to mention can swing for 3k, and then it pretty much puts you under a bit of a clock. That if you activate a monster effect, so if you activate a hand trap, if you activate a spell or a trap card, you're then going to be taking burn damage from it, which just makes it easier for their boss monster to beat over and win from that point on. Carrying through the secrets, we will talk about the 2 new archetypes. The Libromancers get 1 secret, which is also the promo card that you can get at your sneak premiere events. So the Libromancer Geek Boy reads as follows. You reveal 1 ritual monster in your hand, special summon this card from the hand. If this card is special summoned, you get to add a Libromancer spell from your deck to the hand. Only use the effect once per turn. Now the Libromancers actually have really nice synergy for the pure fact that they already have a continuous loop. The level 6, I believe, Ritual Monster, which is an ultra rare, allows you to loop back the trap, which is basically a negate. So you constantly get to loop those back and you get to maintain your resources. The fact that it is a secret and an ultra, and it is not, in my opinion, like B-Trooper Scout Buggy, I feel that it will pretty much fall victim to the same as the previous promos, where an ultra rare will probably be a little bit more than the secret rare because they're harder to get. But ultimately, over time, it will drop down so that a secret rare would probably be about £10 to £15, and the ultra rare might be anywhere from £15 to £20, maybe a little bit less, depending on how bad someone actually wants it. Moving on to the Dinoruffias. Now, the Dinoruffias actually got the most secrets in the entire set, which kind of surprised me a bit. So, with the Dinomorphias, which are now obviously were Dinoruffias in the OCG, the 2 secrets are Dinoruffia or Dinomorphia Domain, which is their normal trap card, and you can only activate this card once per turn. During the main phase, pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinomorphia fusion monster by sending its materials from your hand or deck to the graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect while your life points is 2000 or lower, you banish this card from the graveyard. This turn reduce all effect damage you would receive from your opponent to 0. The other one, which is the Starlight, is the Dinomorphia Teresa. So it is a level 4 Dark, which is the main counterpart of the deck. And if it is normal or summoned, you get to set the Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck. And if your life point is 2000 or less, this card gains 500 attack. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish a trap card in your graveyard to special summon a level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, except itself. So you can kind of see that it is a bit of a big cog in the machine of Dinomorphia. Carrying through the secret rares, probably the best looking card is the brand new Vampire XYZ. So this is called the Undead Vampire in the OCG. I believe its name has changed for the TCG. It is a generic rank 8. But if you use a monster or monsters with a level that is owned by your opponent for the XYZ summon of this card, treat it as a level 11. So it has the same one as the level 6 or the rank 6. So stuff like Crackdown is obviously going to be very important. Neither player can target this card with effects of monsters special from anywhere other than the graveyard. It should have just been, can't be targeted at all apart from the graveyard. You detach a material from this card to send the top 4 cards of each player's deck to the graveyard. Then if a monster or monsters was sent to a graveyard or graveyards, with this effect you can special summon one of them to your field. So that is very, very good, because what that allows you to do is you get to mill your opponent's grave or mill your opponent's deck and then take one of their monsters that has been excavated. By doing so, that then turns that monster into the level 6 or the level 8 that you might need in order to make a second Undead Vampire, or of course the General from the rank 6 as well. And I'll put the pictures up on screen so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Carrying on, another one of the generic secrets that a couple of people will be looking for, especially with the release of the Albash structure decks later on in the year, is the Guardian Chimera. So the Guardian Chimera is a level 9 fusion dark beast monster, 3 monsters with different names. It must be fusion summoned using only monsters in your hand and field as material, minimum 1 from each. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. If it is fusion summoned by a spell effect, which is obviously ideally Pulverization, You can draw cards equal to the number of monsters used as materials from the hand, and if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of monsters used as material from the field. So if you use 2 monsters in your hand and 1 on the field, you're popping a card and drawing 2. The biggest issue with a card like this is for the pure fact that it has to do both, which means it is going to be very irrelevant going first unless you're going to be using all 3 cards from the hand, which you can't do because it needs to have 1 on field and 1 from hand. So you're kind of locking yourself into this being a very good go second card, but at that particular point they've probably set up a couple of interruptions, which I can't imagine this card would break anything higher than £20 on official release. Second effect is your opponent cannot target this card with card effects while you have Polymerization in your graveyard. So obviously if you've activated Polymerization to make this card, which is the ideal scenario en route to do so, it then can't be targeted by stuff like Imperm and Veiler, which is really, really important, but it can ideally still be ashed off of the draw and pop effect. Carrying on, we do get the generic spell card, which was previously called Sales Pitch, but in the TCG it is called Prescription. So declare 1 card name. For the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or the effects of cards with the same original name as the declared card. The same restrictions apply to you, but for the rest of the duel instead of just this turn. So ultimately what you are doing is you are playing a 1-turn prohibition, which locks you out. So is it worth it? To me, I had this argument kind of presented to me, and I was like, I kind of agree that ultimately it's probably not worth it. Like, why would you not just play Prohibition? At least Prohibition lingers. Like, you're still ultimately not allowed to use the effects of the cards you declare, but your opponent can then for the following turn. So it's pretty much only a 1-turn lockout. I suppose if you're going OTK, you could activate and declare Solemn Judgment. But then surely you'd want to try and do the same thing for other cards as well. So it kind of gives you a bit of a gambling take. So to me, again, I can't imagine this card will hit above the heights of about £10 after hype has settled down, for the pure fact of how feasible it's going to be when you compare it to a card like Prohibition, which is still, of course, at 3. So unless I've miscounted, that is pretty much all of the secrets in the set. They are some very interesting ones. Like I said, initially I thought Dark Magician were going to get multiple secrets. I thought they would probably lean back on the Blue Eyes a little bit more as well. But it seems that they have kind of reserved, if the Dark Magician leak is true, it kind of seems that they've reserved 2 Starlight spaces for Dark Magician, which does make it a bit more of a hype set for collectors. So this is basically what it's going to boil down to. If you are a collector, you're probably going to want to try and buy as much of this stuff as possible, because the argument could be that the Dark Magicians could easily be a £100 to a £200 card, and if the Dark Magician is of course the manga card, and it is only going to be printed in the same ratios of Starlight Rares, which is 1 every 2 cases, not to mention you'll then be looking at 1 every 10 cases, I believe it is, to get that particular Dark Magician. You could be looking of upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even £1,000 like 10,000 Dragon, because it will be in theory a lot harder to get than 10,000 Dragon. It will be more unique as it is a manga card as well, and it will be a one-off print of that particular artwork. I can't imagine Konami would reprint that type of artwork in anything else. I mean, I'd be massively disappointed if it was that limited, because then it does mean that if you want to continue your Dark Magician collection, you are going to be spending massive amounts of money, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of justify spending £1,000 on one card, but then when you couple that off with the risk of a case, quite like Peter Griffin always says, a boat is a boat, but this box could be anything, even a boat. So you kind of have to, you're in that kind of predicament of, do I chance my luck for less money and then ultimately if I don't get it, have to pay the money out, or I just pay the money out and I've got it. Looking at the rest of the cards as well, I feel that Blue Eyes fans won't want to dive into this set as heavily, for the pure fact that ultimately it's just 1 secret that you only need to play at 1, and the rest are supers and ultras that should be relatively easy to pick up. The exact same can be said for Sword Souls, Vampires, and of course other sites as well. I think the only one that you're kind of like, ooh, is Dinomorphia, and even then I feel that the singles for Dinomorphia will be a lot easier, quicker, cheaper to pick up, and it's definitely always worth going from there. So ultimately, is it worth buying the boxes on release? That's a bit difficult. I think with pre-release sets like this, it's always worth going to your pre-release events, whether they are doing the old format of 5 packs and a field center, or whether they are doing, you can buy as many packs as you want and then you can trade for the particular cards in your area for what you need. They are always worth going to, in my opinion, for the pure fact that you get additional prizes available to you. The map looks awesome, as you can see on screen, and it does give you a lot more options, plus the trade around is very, very easy. In regards to particular kind of art types and buying boxes, I always say buy at least one box to help support your local environment. But that being said, you're probably going to do that at the pre-release weekend anyway. And the best thing about that is the prices will always be at their highest, 9 times out of 10. So if you pull something that is highly valuable and highly wanted, sell it then, because the chances are once more product gets open, the price is going to drop down. So pre-release, yes. How many boxes after the fact? Well, that only comes down to you. I feel that you could easily get, for the same price of 2 boxes, a playset of all of the new Dark Magician stuff, which would only mean that if you're only after Dark Magician stuff, you don't need to worry. If you're after Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Vampires, then you're going to be looking at buying a box and then trading off the spare secrets. I feel the biggest issue with this particular set is there are a lot of secrets that ultimately, if you're not interested in the art type, there are a lot of secrets that could be lower value. Like, imagine if you got a prescription and an ice jade in your box, that box would be a total loss, because your secret rares, at the least, unless you pulled a Starlight, I can't see breaking £10 per copy, and then it means that the remainder of your box is going to be anywhere from £40 worth of commons, supers and ultras, or less. So it's very, very difficult to kind of make money off the back of that, and then trying to use that as trade for as well is very, very difficult. So if a pairing like that exists, I do apologise. Like, that would be the worst box in my opinion. As you saw from all of the pre-release boxes as well from the influencers, they did get a lot of Illusion of Chaoses. So that may or may not be the same for when the official set drops. We don't know, but it's still a bit of a risk. So in conclusion, if you are after multiple art types from this set, definitely worth buying at least one box, but you're probably going to be doing that at your pre-release, which I highly advise everyone goes to. After that fact, it is then down to you of how much investment you want to put into the set itself. I feel that value-wise can be very, very difficult over a period of time unless you pull a Starlight Rare. So unless you're going to go heavy into this and be buying yourself anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 cases just to make sure you get the Starlight Rares, you're then going to be putting yourself under a bit of strain in order to make your money back and go from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been informative. I hope going through the secrets has kind of informed you of what there is in this particular set, the values of each of those, whether they are worth diving into or whether they are worth sitting back on and waiting a bit of time for as well. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.